Greetings, this is Robin Walker, the Black History Man. I'm about to lead another workshop on history aimed at you, the adults. I'm going to be speaking on Great Zimbabwe, which is an ancient southern African civilization. Now, why is this data important? Well, this is new information that will build pride in heritage and will inspire. I'm also going to link the history to wealth building principles that we can all use. Now, did you know these 10 things about Southern Africa and its history? Number one, in Southern Africa, there are 600 stone-built ruins that dot across places like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Southern Africa. These ruins are called MaZimbabwe, which means great houses of stone. And there are 600 of them, even as far south as Johannesburg. Most scholars don't talk about this, but they're there. Number two, Great Zimbabwe is the largest of these ruins. And originally, it was a 3-square-mile city consisting of 12 buildings. And scholars think that in the 14th century, 25,000 people lived there. Now, that's not a huge number, but when you understand that 14th century London was 20,000, we've got something to compare. Number three, Bling Culture existed in the region. At the Horniman Museum, which is in London, this is what they say. Headrests have been used in Africa since the time of the Egyptian pharaohs. Remains of some headrests, once covered in gold foil, have been found in the ruins of Great Zimbabwe and burial sites like Mapungubwe, dating to the 12th century after Christ. In other words, golden headrests. According to English scholar Dr. Albert Churchward, he wrote a book called Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man. Page 75, he says, Lieutenant Colonel E.L. de Cordes, who was in South Africa for 3 years, informed the writer, that means informed him, that in one of the ruins there's a stone chamber with a vast quantity of papyri covered with old Egyptian hieroglyphics. In other words, in 1913, when Dr. Churchward was writing his book, they found evidence of early writing. Now, we've already mentioned Bling Culture, which brings me up to number 5. A 17th century source describes how people used to dress in the empire of Munumutapa, which is the empire that ruled over Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Mozambique. This is what the writer says. The people dress in various ways at court of the kings. Their grandees wear cloths of rich silk, damask, satin, gold, and silk cloth. These are 3 widths of satin, each width 4 cavados. Each sewn to the neck, sometimes with gold lace in between, trimmed on 2 sides like a carpet, and a gold and silk fringe, sewn in place with a 2 fingers wide ribbon woven with gold roses on silk. In other words, the most amount of silk, the most amount of gold, and it would trail behind the person 4 cavados in length. That is 2.64 meters, trailing behind the wearer. Number 6, Southern Africans mined on a huge scale. One modern writer said the following: the estimated amount of gold ore mined from the entire region by the ancients was staggering, exceeding 43 million tons. The ore yielded nearly 700 tons of pure gold, which today would be valued at over $7.5 billion US. Now, this idea of 43 million tons of ore. Now, if you consider that your car weighs 2/3 of a ton, then 43 million tons is about the same as 60 million cars worth of weight. And that's what the ancients in southern Africa dug. Number 7, where they were digging, the outcrop was granite, yet they were digging mines 150 feet deep. That's an amazing technological achievement. Number 8, the royal palace on the mountain called Mount Fura was described in a geography book from the 17th century. And this is what it says. The inside consists of a great variety of sumptuous apartments, spacious and lofty halls, all adorned with a magnificent cotton tapestry, the manufacture of the country. The floors, ceilings, beams, and rafters are all either gilt or plated with gold curiously wrought, as are also the chairs of state, tables, benches, etc. The candlesticks and branches are made of ivory inlaid with gold, and hang from the ceiling by chains of the same metal or of silver gilt. In other words, the royal palace had chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. Number 9, did you know that Southern Africans had a social welfare system? This is what a Portuguese chronicler who visited had to say. The emperor shows great charity to the blind and the maimed, for these are called the king's poor, and have land and revenues for their subsistence. And when they wish to pass through the kingdoms, wherever they come, food and drinks are given to them at the public cost, as long as they remain there. And when they leave that place to go to another, they are provided with what is necessary for their journey, and a guide, and someone to carry their wallet to the next village. In each place where they come, there is the same obligation. Social welfare in medieval Africa. Now just let that one sink in. And finally, number 10. Many Southern Africans had indigenous and pre-colonial words for gun, firearms. Now, scholars have generally been reluctant to investigate that fact or explain that fact. My colleague Fari Supia has researched on this, and you might want to check out his findings. They are in the appendix to our book. There was a book that we did called When We Ruled. So, what's the next step? If you're interested in this kind of information, a colleague and I are hosting a workshop where we want to share these kinds of ideas with the community. Our next session is Tuesday, 11th of September at the Bridge Park Centre in northwest London. The session is going to be between 7 and 10 p.m. If this interests you, click on the link below to go to Eventbrite for tickets. My lecture is called Money Management, Fortune Building Key from Great Zimbabwe. You see, what the Southern Africans taught us is that if you can build a system with social welfare, you've managed your money to the point where you can produce a surplus. What do you do with that surplus? Well, this is where money management comes in. And I'm going to teach a money management system which you'll be able to implement within days of attending this workshop. I will also explain how the imperial wealth of Southern Africa benefited the people of the empire, because that's important to show that money management has to have that kind of impact on the people. I'm also going to show a money management system that is an improvement on the ideas of George Clayson, his book Richest Man in Babylon. Excellent book, but there are scholars that have improved on those ideas, and I'm going to tell you what that improvement is, how you should implement money management, and why money management is a long-term practical system to build wealth. So who would I like to see coming to this workshop? Well, beginners interested in Black history but don't know where to start. Adults interested in personal development, money management, business and entrepreneurship. Activists interested in Southern African heritage. Community members interested in deepening their knowledge of Black history. Anyone who wants to advance wealth building in the community. Anybody, you're welcome. If this interests you, click the link below to go to Eventbrite for tickets. And otherwise, see you there Tuesday, the 11th of September.